and disbelief overwhelming family members of those who died in the early morning Strawberry Mansion fire. Officials saying the flames started before 5 a.m. and consumed the home quickly.
I'm hurt. I don't know. It don't even feel real. It's still, I just left out the house and seen her and everybody yesterday. My nephew just graduated yesterday.
That warning was made 3 weeks before the fire. A clear threat, a direct plea for help. Sherry Jackson stood in front of officers with the text message in hand, but the officer who took the report labeled it family drama and closed the file. On June 13, 2025 at 5:01 a.m., the first 911 call came in. House on fire, people trapped, flames everywhere. By 5:12 a.m., the Thompson family was gone. Ashley Thompson, 31, 7 months pregnant. Her son Assad is 6 years old. Her daughter Aliyah is just 4, all dead. But this story didn't begin with fire. It began with a threat that was ignored.
It was very fast. We looked out the window, it was already engulfed in flames. By the time my husband came downstairs, she had already jumped out the window.
Before dawn, in the stillness of Strawberry Mansion, smoke began curling through the cracks of a modest 2-story row home on North Corley Street. Neighbors awoke to screams and the sound of glass shattering. "There's a fire! People are inside! They have babies in there!" Firefighters arrived within minutes, but the home was already engulfed. Flames poured from the windows, the roof already collapsing. Inside, 5 people were pulled from the blaze. 2 would survive. 3, Ashley and her 2 children, would not. Ashley was found on the 2nd floor. She had been asleep, 7 months pregnant, no time to run, no time to save her children. Assad and Aliyah were pulled from the house alive but unresponsive. They died shortly after arriving at the hospital. Only Sherry Jackson, Ashley's aunt, and a 1-year-old baby survived by jumping from a 2nd-floor window. Ashley Thompson wasn't just a mother. She was a daughter, a friend, a dreamer. Known for her quiet kindness, Ashley walked her kids to the corner store every morning. She smiled, even when life was hard. Her dreams were modest, going back to school, finding a steady job, and raising her children in peace. The day before the fire, Assad had graduated from kindergarten. Aliyah had fallen asleep clutching her favorite plush toy. Ashley had been planning her baby shower. All of that was erased in minutes. She had told her mother and the police about the threats. She begged for help. She said she would burn the house with me in it. I told the police. Nothing happened. At first, there was doubt. Was it a tragic accident, a faulty appliance, a spark from old wiring, or something more sinister? But almost immediately, investigators noticed something that didn't fit. The fire had spread too fast, too hot, too perfectly placed. So, the Philadelphia Fire Department called in their most sensitive tools, accelerant detection dogs. These animals don't just sniff for chemicals, they tell stories. And that morning, the dogs kept telling the same one over and over.
Using accelerant-sniffing dogs who kept leading detectives to the front steps where they focused their investigation. Absolutely devastating day here for the community. You can see out here PGW crews are working in the area, as well as police, again, still monitoring outside of the home. The cause of the fire, as of now, still undetermined.
The first dog, K9 Bricks, approached the steps of the Thompson home, sniffed deeply, and sat down. His handler froze. "Again," he whispered, barely believing it. They tried a second dog. Same steps. Same reaction. They circled around, brought the dogs from a different direction. Same result. Every single time, the dogs led them back to the same spot, the front steps. And it wasn't just a coincidence. This was the exact spot that Sherry Jackson, Ashley's mother, had pointed to in her ignored police report, the one she filed weeks before the fire. She said she'd burn the house with me in it. I told them. Dispatch, pull report number 44,792. We have got confirmation. This is no accident. Upgrade to homicide. And just like that, the fire investigation shifted from cause to culprit. Investigators scraped samples from the doorway and sent them to the lab. When the results came back, the last doubts vanished. Gasoline. Not the kind used in generators or lawnmowers, the kind used to burn things fast. Someone had stood on those steps and poured accelerant, knowing Ashley and her children were asleep inside. This wasn't a malfunction, it was a message. It was murder. She had warned them. She had given them the name. She had told them what would happen, but no one listened. And now, the evidence was screaming back the truth through barking dogs, melted toys, and blackened walls. They could have stopped this.
Police charged 67-year-old Charles Sumter and 44-year-old Flate Newell with multiple counts of murder and related offenses for the death of Ashley Thompson, who was 8 months pregnant, and her 2 young children.
I feel bad for them kids, and then she was pregnant on top of that, so.
12 days later, 2 suspects were arrested. Charles Sumter, 67, Flate Newell, 44. They were taken into custody on June 25, 2025, after police executed a search warrant at a home on West Albert Street. According to officials, both suspects were charged with multiple counts of murder, arson, reckless endangerment, and other related crimes stemming from the deadly blaze that shocked the entire Strawberry Mansion neighborhood. For many, the arrests brought some sense of relief, but also deeper confusion. The question hanging in the air was unavoidable. Why would anyone do this? That's where the story gets darker. This wasn't a crime between strangers. It wasn't random. It wasn't senseless in the way that most tragedies are. It was far more twisted, a betrayal rooted in blood and history. Flate Newell, one of the 2 suspects now charged with murder and arson, wasn't just a name on a police report. She was family. She is the biological sister of Sherry Jackson, the woman who narrowly escaped the fire that killed her pregnant daughter and 2 grandchildren. It's the kind of connection that deepens the pain and multiplies the horror, because if this was a betrayal, it wasn't sudden. It had been brewing for months, maybe years. According to Sherry, she and her sister had been locked in a long-standing dispute over the home on North 29th Street. It wasn't just a house, it was where Sherry lived with her daughter, Ashley Thompson, and Ashley's 2 children, Assad and Aliyah. The home had become a point of tension, ownership, and resentment, a simmering conflict that no one outside the family could fully understand. But it wasn't all behind closed doors. Sherry says the threats were made out loud, and more importantly, they were reported. She said she would burn the house with me in it. I told the police. Nothing happened. That one line, so specific, so chilling now, reads like a prophecy ignored. It wasn't a vague comment. It was a clear, direct threat of violence, and it was made known to authorities before the fire ever started. For Sherry, the trauma is twofold. She didn't just lose her family, she lost them after trying to prevent it. She raised the alarm. She begged for intervention. And in her words, nothing happened. Authorities have yet to release a full statement on the motive. Investigators remain cautious, perhaps waiting for court proceedings. But the implication is already heavy in the air. If Sherry Jackson's claims are true, this wasn't just arson. It was premeditated murder, fueled by jealousy, unresolved family conflict, and a system that failed to listen. And that's what cuts the deepest. Not just the lives lost, not just the brutality of the fire, but the missed opportunity to stop it. A sister's feud turned fatal. A housing dispute escalated into a triple homicide. And now a family is shattered not by strangers, but by someone who once held them close. The home that once echoed with laughter, cartoons, and tiny footsteps now sat in silence. A skeleton of charred wood, a graveyard made of ash. It had been a modest but vibrant row home. Birthday balloons on the fridge, kids' shoes by the door, a baby bottle still on the counter. Now it was blackened beyond recognition. The roof had caved in, the windows blown out. Inside, firefighters found life frozen mid-motion, laundry still half-folded, a pink blanket clinging to a crib post, untouched by flames, as if waiting. Outside, the sidewalk told its own story. A melted tricycle, a stroller crushed by debris. A toy truck half-melted sat in the dirt like it didn't know its owner wouldn't return. The blaze spread too fast. The structure was consumed in minutes. The smoke alarms did go off. The system worked, just not fast enough. The fire had already become a furnace. This wasn't faulty wiring, it wasn't an unattended stove, it was something else, something darker. Investigators brought in arson dogs. K9 Bricks barked once, then sat right on the front steps, the same spot Sherry Jackson had described when she told officers her sister had threatened to set the house on fire. The K9 handler radioed in. "Dispatch, this is no accident, upgrade to homicide." From that moment, the investigation changed. They tested the steps, gasoline, poured, not spilled, lit with intent. A family wasn't caught in a tragedy. They were targeted. They were trapped. A family friend later reviewed the surveillance footage, voice shaking. It was a trap. You couldn't get out even if you tried. This wasn't just arson, it was erasure. 3 lives, 4 if you count the unborn, gone in under 5 minutes. The melted toys weren't just debris, they were tombstones. The only question left was, who would do this, and why? Strawberry Mansion has never had it easy. It's one of North Philadelphia's oldest neighborhoods, rich with history, culture, and generational pride, but also marked by hardship. For decades, residents here have carried the weight of poverty, gun violence, underfunded schools, and systemic neglect. They have lost too many sons to stray bullets, too many daughters to desperation. They have protested, they have prayed, they have learned to survive. But this was different. This wasn't a drug corner turf war. It wasn't another unsolved shooting in the night. This was a family, murdered from within, burned alive in their own home, by someone who shared their bloodline. It shattered the illusion that no matter how hard the world gets outside, your home is your sanctuary. Because for Ashley Thompson and her children, the home was the danger. In the days and weeks that followed, Strawberry Mansion became quieter. Stoop conversations turned somber. Children's laughter was replaced with difficult questions. Mothers held their kids a little tighter at night. Fathers started checking the locks twice. From 33rd to Lehigh, the echoes of this fire reached every corner because everyone saw a little of themselves in Ashley. Everyone knew a child like Assad. Everyone passed by that house. And then came the murals. Artists from the neighborhood gathered spray cans in hand, pain in their hearts, and painted portraits of remembrance. On alley walls and boarded storefronts appeared images of Ashley smiling, of her kids in graduation caps, of angel wings behind their silhouettes. Strangers walked by and left notes. Small children laid flowers beneath the paint. A boy, no older than 7, asked his mother, "Why did someone do this to them?" And the truth? There is no easy answer, no clean explanation that makes sense of such cruelty. No justice system, no charge, no sentence can truly explain why anyone would ignite a house with children sleeping inside. But that question continues to linger in the air like smoke. It drifts through classrooms and churches, through candlelight vigils and barbershop conversations, through City Hall and the corner stores that saw those children buying candy just a week before the fire. Some call it the day Strawberry Mansion changed forever. Not because it hadn't seen tragedy before, but because this one reached beyond the crime scene. This fire exposed the fractures in family, the failures of the system, and the cost of silence. It reminded everyone that danger doesn't always come from strangers. Sometimes it's familiar faces and ignored red flags that destroy everything. And now, even as the community rallies, the grief lingers. Churches are holding grief counseling circles. Local teachers are asking for training to support children with trauma. Block captains are organizing neighborhood watch efforts, not just to catch criminals, but to check in on families in conflict, because everyone is asking themselves the same question: what can we do to make sure this never happens again? Strawberry Mansion is still standing, still surviving, but now scarred. And for the families who live there, the memory of what happened at 2500 North Corley Street will never be erased. Not by time, not by trials, not even by justice. As of July 2025, both Sumter and Newell charges were official. The names were public. The community finally had faces to point to. One, a shadowy associate. The other, Ashley Thompson's aunt. They were formally indicted for 3 counts of first-degree murder, arson, and conspiracy to commit homicide. Bail was denied, but no one was cheering, because this wasn't just about what they did. It was about who didn't stop them.
Behind bars, with nothing but her reflection and the sound of her own venom to keep her company.
Prosecutors say they have lab-confirmed accelerants, eyewitness reports, and premeditated threats. This case will move forward under the assumption that this was an intentional act. Behind the cameras, Sherry Jackson sat silently. Her hands were folded, her eyes locked forward, not on the suspects, but on the officer who, 3 weeks earlier, had labeled her report a family argument. He had not been suspended. He had not been reprimanded. He had not even shown up in court. Judge say trial proceedings are scheduled for September 2nd, 2025. The courtroom buzzed, but outside, the neighborhood was still holding its breath because justice on paper still felt like a rumor. This wasn't just a trial, it was a reckoning, a test. Would the system punish the arsonists? Or would it ignore the deeper sin, the silence that let them strike? The fire began with gasoline, but it was built on something more combustible: apathy, red tape, and a warning that was never taken seriously. Ashley's voice didn't get a courtroom. Her 911 calls didn't get priority. Her death didn't get prevention, only headlines. And now the trial begins, not just of 2 defendants, but of everyone who heard the threat and walked away. After the funerals were over and the press moved on, something lingered in the air in Strawberry Mansion more than just smoke and sorrow. It was the question that wouldn't go away. Why didn't they act when she warned them? In the weeks following the fire, community activists and grieving neighbors began using a new phrase: Ashley's Law. Not a bill, not a statute, a demand. A demand that when a woman says, "She's going to burn my house down," the police don't dismiss it as family drama. A demand that arson threats be logged, flagged, and acted on fast. It didn't take long for local leaders to pick it up. Flyers appeared across North Philly. No more ignored threats, we need Ashley's Law. A petition gained over 12,000 signatures in 1 week. City Council held a tense hearing on 9/11 failures and domestic-related arson calls. And yet, no official change came. Instead, residents learned the officer who took Sherry's original report, the one who wrote "non-urgent family matter" in the margins, he had since been promoted to desk sergeant. Meanwhile, in the months that followed the Thompsons' deaths, 2 more suspicious fires broke out in the same zip code. Both involved homes where threats had been made beforehand. Both had warning signs. Neither led to arrests. And so, the phrase stuck, not as law, but as a warning. Ashley's Law became a shorthand for everything that failed her: the police who didn't act, the dispatchers who didn't prioritize, the system that never believed a mother in danger until it was too late. In barbershops and corner stores, people still talk about the fire, not just for its cruelty, but for what it revealed. "This ain't just about fire codes," one resident said. "It's about who gets heard and who gets buried." Ashley Thompson, her children, and her unborn baby were failed by the very systems meant to protect them. And even now, with arrests made, with evidence gathered, with funerals held, the larger question remains: will anything truly change? 1 woman, 2 children, 1 unborn life, and all of them taken, not just by fire, but by neglect, failure, and a system that didn't listen. This wasn't just a house fire. It was a warning turned into a funeral, a family erased by a threat that was made, reported, and ignored. Ashley Thompson, 31 years old and 7 months pregnant, was asleep in her home. Her children, Assad, just 6, and Aliyah, only 4, were tucked in, dreaming. By sunrise, they were gone. They say it takes a village to raise a child, but it also takes a system to protect a mother. To hear her when she says, "She said she would burn the house with me in it. I told the police. Nothing happened." Ashley's death didn't happen in silence. The warnings were loud, the danger was clear, and still nothing happened. So ask yourself, if a mother begs for help and no one listens, who's to blame? If the smoke alarms work, but the justice system doesn't, who is responsible for what happens next? We can't change what happened, but we can change how we respond the next time. Because it's not enough to light candles. It's not enough to lay flowers. It's not enough to wait for court dates and press releases. The next time someone says, "I'll burn this place down," we must listen. We must act. We must believe. Because silence doesn't just fail people, silence kills. Ashley Thompson, 31 years old, 7 months pregnant. She loved to dance. Assad Thompson, 6 years old, just graduated from kindergarten. He wanted to be a firefighter. Aliyah Thompson, 4 years old. Her favorite color was pink. She never went anywhere without her teddy bear. All gone. Their lives didn't end by chance. They ended because of a choice, a threat spoken, a warning ignored, a system that didn't believe. Now, all that's left is grief, questions, and ashes. But remembrance isn't enough. Justice requires more than mourning. Justice requires action. If this story moved you, don't just scroll past. Subscribe for more true crime stories that demand accountability. Turn on notifications so you never miss a case that needs to be heard. And most importantly, share this video because Ashley, Assad, Alaya deserve to be remembered. Justice begins with awareness, and awareness begins with you.